I caught him filming me in the shower. Not on accident. Not through a cracked door. I mean full on. Phone in hand, eyes locked, zero shame. And the craziest part? It wasn't the first time. I stood there, dripping wet, frozen in place, steam curling around my body, and he just looked at me. No panic, no apology. Just this calm, almost daring expression, like he'd been waiting for me to notice. I should have been furious. I should have yelled, stormed out, told someone. Instead, I stepped out of the shower. Let me explain. My name's Evan, and up until this year, I lived a pretty quiet life. I'm a junior in college, double major in business and psych, and I've always kept to myself. I don't do drama, I don't do parties, and I especially don't get involved with guys like Brandon. Brandon was my best friend's older brother. Tall, confident, always smirking like he knew something you didn't. He was the type who could make anyone nervous, but I always figured he didn't even know I existed. Until he moved in with us. It was temporary. His lease had fallen through, and my roommate, Mason, offered our spare room until Brandon found something else. Just a few weeks, he said. No big deal. Brandon was quiet at first. Cordial, polite, barely around. I didn't think much of it. But then he started showing up when I was home alone, offering me rides, asking me weirdly specific questions, like what kind of cologne I used, or whether I ever left my door unlocked. I chalked it up to him being overly friendly, until things started to shift. One night, I walked into the kitchen shirtless, and he was already there. He stared. Stared. I pretended not to notice, but the air was thick, heavy. His eyes trailed down my body like he had every right to look. I felt exposed. And for reasons I didn't want to admit, I didn't hate it. Then there was the night I caught him doing laundry. My laundry. Holding up one of my shirts, inhaling it like he was trying to memorize the scent. He didn't see me that time. But the shower? He saw me. I saw him. And everything changed after that. The second I stepped out of the shower, the air shifted. My feet hit the cool tile, my towel half wrapped around my waist, and Brandon didn't flinch. He didn't move. He just kept looking at me like this was all part of a plan only he knew the ending to. I reached for the doorknob, with my heart pounding so loud I was sure he could hear it. Seriously? I asked, my voice sharp, low. He blinked, slowly. You're mad? He said it like it was a genuine question. What the hell do you think? I snapped, pulling the towel tighter. Then he did something that made my skin prickle. He smiled. Not a mocking grin, not cocky. It was subtle, calm, almost proud. I deleted it, he said, lifting the phone and showing me the blank screen. He hesitated for the first time, eyes dropping to the floor for a half second before meeting mine again. I couldn't help myself. I should have walked past him. I should have shoved him out of the doorway and slammed the door in his face. But instead, I stood there, still dripping, pulse racing, trying to figure out what the hell was happening to me. Why? I asked, and my voice came out quieter than I meant it to. Like part of me actually wanted an answer. He licked his lips, then shrugged one shoulder. I don't know, you've been driving me crazy. Brandon. Since the second I moved in, he cut in, voice lower now. I thought I could ignore it. You walking around in those tank tops, acting like you don't know exactly what you're doing. I stared at him. I wasn't doing anything. His smile deepened, just a little. That's the problem. The silence stretched. Too long, too thick. My chest tightened, not with fear, but with something else I didn't want to name. I took a step back into the bathroom, and without really thinking, I said, "Give me 10 minutes." Brandon tilted his head. For what? To talk, I said. Properly. Without the door in between. He gave a slow nod. All right, he said. 10 minutes. Then he turned and walked away. I shut the door, leaned against it, and exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for a week. What the hell had I just done? And why didn't I want to take it back? 10 minutes. That's what I told him. I locked the door behind me, my hands still damp and shaky on the knob. The bathroom felt smaller now, like the steam clinging to the mirror was pressing in on me. I stared at my reflection, my wet hair clinging to my forehead, the flush still high in my cheeks, eyes wide with something I didn't want to name yet. Why didn't I yell at him? Why didn't I blow up, call Mason, tell him his older brother was creeping on me? Why the hell did I tell him to come back? I dried off slowly, methodically, trying to buy time and let my thoughts untangle. But they didn't. Every thought just led back to the same knot in my chest, the same damn truth I didn't want to say out loud. I wanted him to come back, not because I understood what the hell just happened, but because somewhere deep in my gut, I knew there was more to this, more to him. And maybe, just maybe, I didn't hate being wanted like that, even if it was twisted, even if it didn't make sense. I threw on sweats and a hoodie, yanked the door open, and paced down the hallway to my room. The apartment was quiet. I didn't see Brandon, but the living room light was on, casting a soft glow across the kitchen. I figured he was waiting. I sat on the edge of my bed, elbows on my knees, hands clenched, trying to find the words before I opened my door again. But I didn't get the chance. There was a knock. Soft. Almost tentative. I stood. Yeah? It's been 10 minutes, Brandon said, and even through the door I could hear the restraint in his voice. I cracked it open and looked at him. Same black t-shirt, same calm expression, like we hadn't just crossed a major line. His eyes flicked over me, noting the hoodie, the way I stood stiffly like I might change my mind any second. You want to talk? He asked. Yeah, I said, stepping aside to let him in. No games. He entered slowly, hands tucked in his hoodie pockets, eyes scanning my room like it held answers. It didn't. Just a bed, a desk, a half-finished coffee mug, and too many unanswered questions. I sat back down. He leaned against the wall across from me, arms crossed now. All right, I said. What the hell was that? He didn't answer right away. His jaw tightened, then relaxed. Look, I'm not gonna feed you a line of bullshit. I knew what I was doing. So, you admitted, I said, a bit sharper than I intended. Yeah, I admit it. He looked up, meeting my eyes directly. I've been thinking about doing that for weeks. That hit me harder than it should have. I blinked. Why? He chuckled softly, shaking his head. I don't know, man. You're different. You're not like the guys I usually hang out with. And I didn't expect it. Didn't plan it. It just started happening. I'd be sitting on the couch, and you'd come in from a run, or you'd walk around barefoot and I'd feel it. That pull. I swallowed. You're straight, he shrugged. I thought I was. His honesty knocked the wind out of me. He wasn't hiding behind a joke or brushing it off. He was just saying it. Like it was the truth. Like he'd already accepted it. And the video? I asked, quieter now. He winced. Not my proudest moment. I never meant to keep it. I wasn't gonna post it or anything. I don't know, I panicked. I've never wanted someone like this before. I sat back, staring at him. The confidence I had always associated with Brandon wasn't there tonight. He looked uncertain, raw, like he'd been stripped down to something real. What happens now? I asked. He looked at me for a long time. That depends on you. I stood and crossed the room, slowly stopping just a few feet in front of him. His eyes met mine, still steady but softer now. You don't get to mess with me, I said. I'm not some experiment. I'm not messing with you, he said immediately. I wouldn't have come in that room if I didn't mean it. My voice dropped. Then what do you want from me? He reached out slowly, fingers grazing the hem of my hoodie. I want to see what this is. With you. I should have pulled back. But I didn't. Instead, I leaned in just enough that I could smell the faint citrus in his cologne. This doesn't make sense. He nodded. I know. And then his hand slid around my waist, just resting there, not pulling, not forcing, just touching. I can leave, he whispered, eyes searching mine. Don't, I whispered back. He didn't. We stayed like that for a moment. Two people caught in something bigger than either of us had expected. The room felt heavier, warmer, quieter. Then, finally, I leaned forward and rested my forehead against his shoulder. Just that. His arms came up around me, slowly, carefully, like he wasn't sure he was allowed. But I let him. And for the first time since I saw him holding that phone, I didn't feel afraid. We didn't say anything for a while. Just stood there in that strange, quiet space between confusion and comfort. His chest rose and fell steadily under my cheek. His fingers curled lightly against my back, like he was still half expecting me to push him away. I didn't. It was weird how something so simple, just standing that close, could feel like a bigger decision than it was. It wasn't sex. It wasn't even kissing. But it was real. Eventually, I pulled back just enough to look up at him. "You've really never been with a guy?" I asked, my voice soft. He shook his head. Never even thought about it until he trailed off, then offered a wry smile. "Well, until you." "Why me?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stepped back slightly, letting his hands drop to his sides. "Because you're not like anyone I've ever met. You're not trying to prove anything. You don't care about being cool or loud or whatever the hell most people think matters. You're just you." I looked down, not sure what to say to that. "I used to think I had a type," he added. "Turns out I was just playing safe." That got my attention. "Safe how?" He took a breath and leaned back against my desk. "Safe as in expected. Girls. Locker room talk. Being the older brother who knows what's up. You grow up a certain way, and people just assume things. You start assuming them too. And now? Now I'm questioning everything," he admitted. "And it scares the shit out of me." I nodded slowly. "Welcome to the club," he laughed quietly. "You scared?" I shrugged. "Not anymore. I've had time to sit with it. I know who I am, what I want." He looked at me with something close to admiration. "I envy that." We sat down on the bed, side by side, our knees brushing. It should have felt awkward. It didn't. After a moment, he asked, "Can I ask you something kind of personal?" "Sure. Do you ever regret coming out?" That one hit harder than I expected. I thought about the question, really thought about it. "Sometimes," I said. "Not because I'm ashamed, but because it changes things. People treat you differently. Some good, some bad. You lose people you thought were permanent, and gain others you never saw coming. It's like trading one version of your life for another." He was quiet, absorbing that. "But I wouldn't go back," I added. "Even on the worst days, I'd rather be real than safe." He nodded. "Yeah, that makes sense." Then he glanced over, more serious now. "Can I be honest with you?" I turned to face him fully. "Please." "I don't know what I'm doing," he said. "I don't know what this is, or what I'm feeling, or how far I want it to go. But I know I'm not pretending." I looked at him, really looked at him. His jaw clenched just a little, his eyes searching mine for judgment, for a reaction. I reached out and placed my hand lightly over his. "I'm not asking you to figure it out tonight." He exhaled, like that one sentence let out all the air he'd been holding. I gave his hand a squeeze. "But if you want to keep exploring this, whatever this is, we do it on my terms. Respectfully. No more filming me, no more sneaking around." He flushed a little, embarrassed. "Fair. And we keep it between us," I added. "Until you're sure you're ready to be more open." He nodded. "That's more than fair." We sat there, our hands still touching, and something in my chest settled for the first time in a long while. Not fully, not neatly, but enough. Eventually, he looked around my room, then back at me. "You want to watch something?" I smiled. "What? Like Netflix and very confusing sexual tension?" He laughed. "Exactly." So we did. He laid back against my pillows. I settled beside him. Not close, not quite, but closer than we'd ever sat before. We watched something dumb, a comedy neither of us paid attention to. The screen flickered, the sound filled the silence, and somewhere in the middle of it all, his hand found mine again under the blanket. It stayed there, and I let it. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. Even after Brandon left my room, even after the glow from the TV faded and the apartment finally went still, I just laid there, staring at the ceiling, his words and that quiet grip of his hand echoing in my chest. "I'm not pretending," he'd said. I believed him. That was the strange part. He wasn't slick enough to lie well. And if it was just some thrill, some weird experiment, he wouldn't have looked that vulnerable when he said it. Still, belief didn't make it easier. Because the questions that followed, they were real, and they didn't have neat answers. What did this mean for him? For me? For Mason? Yeah, Mason. My best friend. His little brother. That part hadn't even sunk in yet. Not fully. I'd been so caught up in the moment, and the way Brandon looked at me, touched me, wanted me, that I'd ignored the landmine sitting right between us. Now it was all I could think about. In the morning, I found Brandon in the kitchen, shirtless, leaning over the counter with a spoon in his mouth, and that damn casual smirk he always wore when he wasn't trying to be serious. "Morning," he said, like everything was normal. I gave him a once-over, not bothering to hide it. "You always eat cereal like you're posing for a thirst trap?" He chuckled, not even fazed. "Just keeping the roommate experience exciting." I poured coffee, eyes still half-lidded from sleep. "You realize we're gonna have to talk about this again, right?" "I figured," he said, swallowing a bite. "But not before caffeine, I'm not suicidal." I smirked despite myself and leaned against the fridge, watching him. He was still Brandon, confident, relaxed, a little too charming for his own good. But there was something softer in the way he moved this morning. Like the usual armor he wore had loosened just a little. "Did you sleep at all?" he asked. "Barely." "Me neither." He walked past me to grab the creamer from the fridge, and our shoulders brushed. It wasn't an accident, not like before, when he used to pretend not to notice. This time, it felt intentional. Testing. Checking if I'd flinch. I didn't. "Look," he said, pouring cream into his coffee. "I know this is messy. I don't want to make your life harder. Or Mason's. I'm not even sure how to act right now." "You're acting fine," I said quietly. He looked over, and for a moment, the smirk dropped. "You're not mad?" I don't think mad is the right word. "Then what?" I hesitated. Confused, curious, a little scared. "Same," he said, honest and simple. "But I'm not backing off. Not unless you want me to." My stomach tightened. I should have told him to cool it, to slow down, to give me space. But I didn't. Because deep down, I didn't want space. I wanted to see what would happen if we kept going. The next few days passed in a blur of near misses and quiet touches. We didn't talk about it out loud, whatever it was, but it was there, woven into every glance, every pause in conversation. He'd brush past me on his way to the sink, and his fingers would linger just a beat too long. I'd catch him watching me when he thought I wasn't paying attention, and every night I'd lie in bed wondering if I should text him, if he was lying there doing the same. Then, Friday came. Mason texted me around noon. "Party at Dylan's tonight. You're coming. No excuses." I showed the message to Brandon while he was folding laundry in the living room. "Guess your brother still thinks I'm single and social," I said. He raised an eyebrow. "You going?" "I don't know." "You should," he said. "Act normal. Don't let this get weird." "This is weird," he grinned. "Yeah, but weird can be good." I shook my head, laughing despite myself. "Are you going?" "Only if you are." So we went. Dylan's party was the usual chaos. Cheap beer, too loud music, and half the campus packed into a house too small to hold them. Mason was already 2 drinks in when we got there, arms slung over someone I didn't recognize. "Glad you made it," he shouted, pulling me into a lopsided hug. "Was starting to think you were ghosting me." Brandon clapped his shoulder. "He's just been busy. School and stuff." Mason gave him a look. "You two been hanging out more lately?" Brandon didn't miss a beat. "Guess we have." Mason nodded slowly. "Huh, cool." Then he disappeared into the crowd. We hung around, made small talk, drank slowly. But I couldn't relax. Not really. Not with Brandon standing so close. Not with Mason 2 rooms away. Not with every nerve in my body thrumming like I was one wrong move from being caught. Then it happened. I was in the kitchen refilling my drink when Brandon came up behind me, leaned in and whispered, "You okay?" His breath brushed my ear. Too close. Too much. I turned, ready to tell him to back off, but he kissed me. Quick. Just a brush of lips. So fast, I almost convinced myself I imagined it. But I didn't. He was already backing away when Mason walked in. And froze. All 3 of us locked eyes. No one spoke. And just like that, everything changed. Time froze. Mason's eyes flicked between us. Me, standing there dumb and motionless, and Brandon, looking suddenly a lot less confident than usual. The red Solo cup in Mason's hand dipped slightly, like even his grip forgot what it was supposed to do. I opened my mouth to say something. Anything. But nothing came out. Brandon stepped forward first. "Mason." "No," Mason cut in, his voice flat. "What the hell did I just see?" The kitchen felt way too small. The music in the background, once just noise, now sounded deafening. I could hear the bass thudding through the walls like it was synced with my racing pulse. "It's not what you think," I blurted. Immediately regretted it. Mason's eyebrows shot up. "Oh really? Because it sure looked like you were kissing my brother." Brandon cleared his throat, voice calmer than I expected. "I kissed him," Mason laughed. Not a funny laugh, a sharp, bitter one. "Great, that makes it so much better." "Mason, we didn't mean for you to find out like this," I said, stepping forward. He shook his head. "How long?" I hesitated. He looked at Brandon. "How long?" "A few days," Brandon said quietly. Mason scoffed. "Unbelievable." He set his cup down hard on the counter and walked out without another word. I turned to Brandon. "Should I go after him?" He shook his head. "Give him space. You know how he is." But that didn't make it feel any better. The rest of the night was a blur. I barely remember leaving. Just the thud of regret that settled in my chest and refused to move. I didn't sleep. Neither did Brandon, if the light under his bedroom door was any indication. The next morning, I found Mason on the balcony with a cup of coffee, staring out at the city like it might give him answers. "Hey," I said, approaching slowly. He didn't look at me. "You really with him?" I stood beside him, unsure of what to do with my hands. "I don't know. Maybe. It's complicated." He exhaled hard through his nose. "You could have told me." "I didn't know what to say," I admitted. "You're my best friend, Evan." "I still am." He turned to face me finally. "Then why didn't you trust me with this?" I paused. "Because I didn't want to lose you." He studied me for a moment, and the anger in his face softened. "You didn't lose me," he said. I need time." I nodded. "Okay." We stood there in silence, not everything fixed, but not broken beyond repair either. Later that day, I found Brandon in the living room, eyes tired, phone in hand, like he'd been waiting for something. "He's not okay," I told him. "But he's not cutting us off." Brandon nodded, exhaling slowly. "I was scared of this, of hurting him." "I know." He looked up at me. "Do you regret it? Us?" I sat beside him on the couch. "No, but I wish we'd been smarter about it." He nodded again. Then, quieter. "I meant what I said, about not pretending, about wanting to see where this goes." I looked at him. "Then, let's do it right this time. No secrets, No hiding. He reached over, hand finding mine. Deal. It wasn't simple, it wasn't neat, but it was real, and that was enough. For now. A week later, things were still tense, but stable. Mason was distant, but not cold. He didn't ignore me, he didn't lash out, but the jokes were fewer, the texts slower. I knew that was his way of processing. Space, silence, recalibration. It hurt, but I respected it. Brandon handled it differently. He didn't retreat. If anything, he leaned in. We didn't hide anymore. Not from Mason, not from each other, and definitely not from ourselves. He sat closer on the couch now. He lingered in doorways. Sometimes he'd come into my room just to lie on the bed beside me, not even saying anything, just being there. And little by little, the tension between us shifted. It wasn't just about confusion anymore, or risk. It became something steadier, a quiet kind of gravity. One night, we found ourselves alone in the apartment. Mason had gone out, said something vague about grabbing dinner with friends. Brandon and I ended up in my room again, same as before. But this time, the air between us felt different. "You know what's weird?" he said, flipping onto his side to face me. "What?" He stared at the ceiling for a second, then met my eyes. "I don't miss the old version of myself." I let that sink in. "What do you mean?" He shrugged. I thought I had everything figured out before. Who I was, what I wanted. But I was on autopilot, just doing what everyone expected. This. He paused, his fingers brushing mine. "This feels more real than anything I've done before." I smiled, just a little. "You're not just saying that because you like the way I make coffee?" He grinned. "That's part of it. But no, I mean it." He rolled onto his back again, hands behind his head. "You make me feel grounded, like I don't have to perform. I can just be." I didn't realize how badly I needed to hear that until he said it. Later that night, we heard the front door open. Mason's voice carried through the hall as he kicked off his shoes. Brandon looked at me, his expression flickering with hesitation. "You want me to go back to my room?" he asked. "No," I said. "Stay." He nodded, settled in beside me. A few minutes later, there was a soft knock. "Yeah," I called. The door opened, and Mason stood there, arms crossed, eyes flicking between us on the bed. "You guys decent?" Brandon sat up a little. "Always." Mason stepped in, leaned against the doorframe. "I've been thinking." That sentence made my stomach twist. "I was mad," he said. "Still am, a little, but not because you're together. More because I didn't see it coming, and maybe I felt a little replaced." "You're not," I said, sitting up too. "You're still my best friend," he nodded. "I know, and I'm trying to get there. Really, it's just new, you know." We both nodded. He sighed. "So, I guess what I'm saying is, I'm not gonna be weird about it anymore. Just don't be gross about it in front of me, okay?" Brandon smirked. "No promises." Mason rolled his eyes. "God, you've always been annoying." But he smiled as he said it. And that smile, crooked, tired, but real, felt like the first breath of fresh air after a storm. When he left the room, Brandon turned to me. "So, we survived the brother reveal." "Barely." He leaned over, pressed his lips to mine. Gentle, certain, no hesitation this time. I smiled against his mouth. "You know this is just the beginning, right?" He pulled back, just enough to look at me. "Yeah, but, for once, I'm actually excited to figure it out." We lay back down, fingers intertwined, the weight of uncertainty finally lifting off our shoulders. We didn't have all the answers. We didn't need them. We had time. And each other,